So it's 11 o'clock, and right now I'm at the iTunes setup. So we're officially in party time territory here. And what we're going to do in today's video is take a look at the airport. So if we focus on the LED, you can see that it's blinking amber. I had it working earlier. I actually reset the thing, and it was working, and then it decided to not work again. And this only happened after I turned off the entire setup, so obviously this is disconnected to power. It could be as easy as a software update. Every time I have to boot up the system, it'll tell me the date and time is incorrect because, like I mentioned in the actual setup video, the battery on the MacBook in the back here doesn't work, so it can't keep its settings properly, at least whenever it's fully unplugged. It's not really that annoying if you think about it, but considering I fully turn off this entire setup and then I have to deal with that every time, and sometimes even the Wi-Fi doesn't want to reconnect. Let's actually go ahead and take a look at the desktop, open up AirPort utility. I was also trying to do it on a couple of iPhones, like the one I'm recording on, to try and reset this thing up, but it just kept telling me that there was an error setting it up. There is an update coming to the Office project with iTunes. But let's go ahead and take a look at AirPort utility. And by the way, the reason why this is called PowerPC AirPort Extreme is because the last time I used this specific AirPort was with, you guessed it, a PowerPC machine. Specifically, I believe the iMac G3 and occasionally the PowerBook G4. But I have yet to rename this. I might change it to maybe the iTunes setup or the iTunes library. Okay, so if you're wondering why Genesis is here, that's because when I click on this, it'll not show the internet information. But as you can see here, this is on version 7.6.9. And I actually realized whenever I was checking the information on this in AirPort utility, it actually told me that this is a second generation model. So it's still, basically the same as the first generation, but it did say that it's technically a second gen. Not that it really makes that much of a difference, but that was just something that apparently I missed somehow. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on update and hope that it fixes everything. Let's actually use something with internet. I've got this iPhone 4 here, and let's go ahead and just download AirPort utility. Obviously the last compatible version, and we should be good to go. Okay, so I have no idea what actually happened, but just to show you guys that the app is working, I can see my AirPorts on the network. It looks like the update button is grayed out, but I clicked on it again, and this time it actually tells me, are you sure you want to continue? So yeah, I don't know what happened. Let's just go ahead and click continue. Update the firmware on this guy, and maybe I'll change the name to something more iTunes related. I could have sworn I actually clicked on update and it did nothing, so at least it is actually updating the firmware now, so all we have to do is just wait. Fortunately, because the MacBook has built-in Wi-Fi, it is actually able to get the update itself. And here is a good opportunity for a screenshot, as well as one for this guy. Now this is the action we're all here for. It's currently restarting. Now if this doesn't fix it, I'm gonna try and just restart the main internet. Okay, so we are updated to 7.8.1. I really don't know that much about the version numbers on the airports, but if it says it's up to date, then it seems like it's up to date. It still says there's no internet connection, so we're going to move on to the next step. We're going to hard reset this with the button on the back and set it up using the iPhone 4. Here is the back of the airport with all of its ports. Now obviously, because the power supply is external, it's a barrel type connector. And then we've got one USB port, so you could hook up things like a hard drive or a printer, things that you could access on a network. Or if you also want to, you could set this up as a time machine, so that way you can do backups of your computer. 3 of these are the LAN connectors, so that way you can, hook up a computer to them. And then this one, I believe it's called WAN. This is for your modem, so that way you can actually get internet to this thing. But one of the features of the AirPort is that you can use them as extenders. So you don't need to use this, of course, if you're not setting this up with your main internet connection. And in this case, I'm doing just that. I'm extending the network, and I'm just using one of these ports for the MacBook. And if I want to use the other MacBook Pro on a wired connection, I can use one of the other Ethernet ports. At the very end, we've also got the reset button. And the reason why you would need something like a SIM eject tool or a paper clip is because this is recessed into the plastic housing. So what you want to do is unplug it, wait a couple of seconds, press down the reset button, and then plug it in if you can actually, plug it in properly. The only reason I'm doing it like this is so you guys can see the LED. So it'll start off with amber, and it'll blink repeatedly just like that. So once that happens, you can let go. So the LED is flashing this time, but that's actually a good sign. Because now, if we take a look at the internet settings, you'll see that it shows up to set up a new AirPort base station. So let's go ahead and click on it. So we want to extend the network, and I decided to go with the name iTunes Zone because that's kind of what it is. iTunes library doesn't sound that great for something like this. And then obviously we have to enter passwords and other boring stuff like that so it can actually connect to the internet. Any moment now, if it doesn't time out or if it doesn't fail, right now it's saying that it's reading settings on it, we should be good to go. An unexpected error occurred. Well, that just leaves me with one thing that I can think of. I'm going to reset the Wi-Fi, the main internet that is actually being connected to this thing, power this off and on again, and just hope it reconnects. It's still doing this. Even after I reset the main internet, yeah, it's... Why is it doing this? It must be some sort of dead zone, because even that, though, doesn't make sense, because right now I have Wi-Fi on this machine enabled, and if I go to the browser here to check that we have internet, we should be able to see, yeah, we have Google. So I have one more thing that might fix it. I'm going to take the entire AirPort and bring it as close as possible to the main internet station, where the main internet lives. I'm going to try the same process that we tried with the iPhone 4, maybe on another device though. Oh, great. Yeah, this is what I get for not, cable managing things. Route that through. So this guy is coming with me. Well, it looks like we're back to square one. I did try it with the main AirPort, and while it did work, I was trying to see if I could do it with a Ethernet connection and then disconnect it later on. Unfortunately, that did not go to plan. As soon as I disconnected it, it just saw no network. I mean, it kind of makes sense if you think about it, but at the same time, it should have at least maybe saved the settings, but yeah, it did nothing like that. Then I reset it right next to the main AirPort without Ethernet. Of course, it did reset, but we got the same error message. Now, I'm not sure why it's not working on the iPhone. I've set this up in the past with an iPhone before, and it worked just fine. I saw online as well that the version of AirPort Utility here, version 6.3.1, might be causing problems. Some people said that version 6.3.6 actually solved their connection problems. So it's potentially because we're using Lion here, maybe that's causing the problem. I would show you the MacBook Pro logo, but this one doesn't actually have it on the glass, it's on the bottom. But I got the 2012 MacBook Pro here, and this is running AirPort Utility 6.3.9, which is 8 versions newer than the one on Lion, and hopefully this should actually give us some usable results. I'm not sure why the iPhone setup did not work. Even on the iPhone 4, yeah, it's an older version, it should have still, worked. I've tried it with newer iPhones as well. It didn't work at all. So we're going to be using this. It's getting to the point where I have to try alternative measures here. So instead of just setting it up to connect to the network. I'm actually setting it up to technically replace another AirPort Extreme I have. It's not hooked up to anything, it's just being used as an extender because that one actually works and it's plugged in at the moment. Hopefully it should just be able to copy over the settings from that one onto this one, and then I can just easily reset the other one because I know that one actually works. If this does actually end up working, I am going to keep this AirPort plugged in because clearly it doesn't like the power cycles. It worked. It worked. It actually worked. I can't believe it. The setup actually went through. It's on. It's working. Why did it take this long? This shouldn't have taken this long. Well, it's working now, and I guess I'm gonna have to figure out a cooling solution if this is gonna stay on, so maybe we can use this guy somehow. This is currently just a PC fan with no hookups, but I do have some extra USB cables, and we could do something like we did in a previous video where we actually did just that with a different fan. Maybe I'll have this set up to, you know, somehow keep this thing cool. And yeah, I don't know where I'm going to leave this plugged in all the time. Probably not the surge protector because that thing, you know, the thing in the back there, that thing is always being turned on and off based on if I'm actually using the setup here. So maybe this will just stay directly plugged in to the main outlet. Oh man, I do not want to deal with this again. I love AirPorts. These things are amazing, but when they don't want to work, this is actually the first time I've even had a problem like this. I don't know what even caused it. The only thing I can think of is the constant power cycles. If that's not the case, I have no idea. But I'm just glad it worked. And there it is. iTunes Zone is back up and running. There's also that time machine that I actually use with the Mac Mini. But yeah, this is working. I just checked the other AirPort Extreme. And obviously it had the flashing LED. I'm not sure if I'm going to leave it in the same space as it was, but maybe we can have two AirPorts in the same setup. Who knows? I'm just glad that this is working again. So I spent over an hour, maybe closer to 2 hours trying to troubleshoot this thing, and I'm going to ruin all that time and unplug it because, like I said, I don't want to leave it plugged into the power strip, which is actively being used depending on if the setup is in use. So I'm going to plug this directly into the wall, just hope that it reconnects as it should, and if not, I can always use that other AirPort Extreme, reset it up, you know, copy the settings over. I'm just glad I found a workaround. Nothing online mentioned about copying the existing, like making it so this is a replacement in a way. Not really, but I was just able to use the settings from it. Okay, let's plug this thing in before it decides to ruin itself again. Sorry about the low lighting, but this is the main wall plug for the power strip, and then the other one will be used by the AirPort. Let's go ahead and see if that's actually working. Okay, time for the moment of truth. Don't let me down, because I don't want to do this again, but hopefully it made for an interesting video, and if you actually have an AirPort, hopefully this gave you some extra tips to try out in case something didn't go to plan. Like I said, everything I saw online, they had similar problems, but it wasn't the same thing, and no one mentioned this solution. You know, if you only have like 1 or 2 AirPorts, maybe it's not practical, but considering I have you know, I've just gotten a bunch over time, and thankfully it's green. It actually works. We're gonna plug this back into the MacBook there. It would also help to actually plug this cable in. And check it out, it's connected, it's actually working. Wi-Fi is turned off, as you can see from the icon there. This video was not planned in any way, but I'm just glad that we were able to get it working in the end. Who knew Wi-Fi would be so complicated? At the end of the day though, I still love these AirPort devices. I'd rather use these for all of my internet needs because they just work so well together when they actually do work, and they also look nice. I mean, Sure, it's just a plain plastic white slab, but hey, it's got an Apple logo. So have we added anything new to the setup today? Well, I guess if you include the AirPort utility app on the iPhone 4 here, no, not at all. The only thing we actually changed physically was where this thing is plugged in. The Office box set thanks you for watching. The AirPort says nothing. I'm still trying to think of different ideas of what to add to the setup here, but a potential idea is maybe a CRT TV here or a CRT monitor. Obviously something like a 20-inch monitor or something would be just way too much for this. Not to mention the fact it would take up the entire space here. Maybe we can add some sort of hi-fi additional components either here or maybe over here somewhere. I don't really know yet. There's still a lot of potential here, but I'm not sure how to actually improve upon this. Like I said though, if you're interested in seeing some sort of CRT or maybe just another flat screen monitor here, let me know, because that is something I'd like to do, but I'd also like to hear your guys' input. I know this entire video was entirely about Ethernet, internet, you know, call it whatever, Wi-Fi, but in the future maybe we can also add something like this guy. Absolutely nothing in this setup would benefit from the addition of this. The Extreme itself can act as a switch because I have used it between the MacBook and the MacBook Pro here. This is just redundant. But at the same time, if we do expand on this setup, again, I really don't know what would benefit from this. The only thing I can really see this being practical is if somehow I get more external hard drives that have built-in Ethernet for some reason, or potentially I get an array of a whole bunch of MacBooks here, line them up together, or, you know, just MacBooks, Mac Minis, whatever, line them up together and make them all communicate with one another. Maybe use like macOS server with Xgrid or some of that other now obsolete software, but somehow make all the computers communicate with one another and maybe make some sort of supercomputer out of just plastic MacBooks. It's something I would like to try, but considering this is my only plastic MacBook, and let alone, you know, I don't really have a lot of spare machines, and the fact I'm using this as a Mac Mini probably says a lot about the entire setup. But if you do want to see more Ethernet, internet, Wi-Fi related things, I do have other AirPorts. Maybe we can take a look at the other AirPort that we took its settings from to reactivate this one. Maybe we can bring that one over to this setup so we can have two AirPorts. Maybe we can put it up on top of the mini system or whatever. Lots of potential, lots of plans, but you know, you have one part of the hardware and you don't have the rest of the puzzle. But the next practical upgrade I do see is installing this fan somehow. Like we saw earlier, the AirPort does have a USB port, and considering I don't plan on installing a Wi-Fi accessible hard drive or printer, we can use its USB port to power the fan at all times. It does supply power, and as long as the AirPort is on, this will be on. It doesn't need to be fast, it just needs to move air so it can keep things cool. So those two are potential upgrades or additions to the setup. So I hoped you guys enjoyed seeing the setup in action again, and I figured instead of troubleshooting it off camera, I might as well bring you guys along the journey because, you know, it's still part of the setup. Even though we did absolutely nothing and I was the only one who actually suffered here, we actually did learn something, and hopefully someone might find that information helpful about the AirPort Extreme. And let me know if you guys want to see potential additions like the fan. I don't know about the network switch, but I do have it. Maybe adding some sort of DVD player or, you know, something here. And like I said, maybe some sort of CRT TV or monitor. I do have a ton of CRTs, and I'm sure that this would be a great spot for one, but I just have to figure out which one to use. If I was to describe the setup, it's still kind of like in the alpha beta stages. Like, it's come a long way, because in the initial video I told you how it was before. Half of the setup wasn't even here the last time, but considering we already have potential additions and upgrades like the fan there, even though it's a small addition, it's still an addition. There's still a lot that we can improve upon the setup. I feel like there's a lot of wasted space here. Maybe we can improve this somehow, but at the same time, I really don't know how to improve it. But like I said, there's a lot we can change in the future. There's a lot we can add in the future. Maybe we can add some sort of shelf here. I don't think I have anything like that, but maybe we can find something and improve it somehow. That's going to wrap up today's video. We fixed the AirPort. I know I've said it multiple times already and you're probably sick of it, but when you've spent over 2 hours on a silly issue like this, because this thing was getting pretty annoying to fix at the end. So if you have any suggestions, comments, things you want to say about the setup, let me know in the comments down below. And if this stuff interests you and you want to see more about it, then consider subscribing to the channel. That pretty much wraps things up completely. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.